Hi, my name is Kevin and I collect old irons. One of our more popular in-depth videos was on the coal charcoal irons. That was 4 years ago. So it's time for us to bring some more out and get a little deeper into the subject. First, let's distinguish between coal and charcoal. Coal is black, solid chunks of hydrocarbon that were in the olden days used to heat the homes, in the stoves, and so forth. And even today, coal is what powers our electrical power plants. Those who like electrical cars need to know that 70% of our electricity for those electric cars comes from coal or natural gas, 20% is nuclear. Now, some people did burn coal directly in their irons, and we did a video where we showed how that was done for irons in India, but by and large in the United States what we did was we opened the coal iron and we ladled some charcoal from our wood or our coal stove into here. Now it's nice and hot, and now I can put that on and I'm ready to take this away from the kitchen environment and do the ironing. For convenience, most iron collectors call these coal irons rather than charcoal irons, and I'll use that term here. Even though the Old Iron Inn B&B logo is a coal iron, this is not my favorite iron category. The group, especially among the American irons, does not have a great deal of diversity. I only have about 20 coal irons, American and European altogether, in my collection. We will, by the way, see the European irons in the next video. Now, I'm going to boil this down considerably. By my accounting, the whole diversity of American coal irons can be set down into three basic groups. The first group is the Bless and Drake irons, patented in 1852. The second group is the MSP's irons, patented in 1884 and extending into the early 20th century. And the third group is a broader group that has a number of different patents and manufacturers, but the irons in this group are all exclusively 20th century. The Bless and Drake type was first patented in 1852, with later patents into the 1880s at least. The general Bless and Drake type has a forward chimney pointed forwards with various heights, a flat top, a small back pin, and a rear vent. For the Bless and Drake company, the rear vent shows a human bearded figure. That's Vulcan, god of fire. And there were many other companies that used these patents to produce their own irons, oftentimes with different vents and different markings on the top, if there were any markings. And you can find these commonly in manufacturers or Sears catalogs up to 1920. As detailed in various patents, the vent allowed air to go into the compartment beneath the coal. This provided for a more efficient burn. The Bless and Drake iron is perhaps the most common of all the irons you'll see, coal irons, that you'll see in antique shops. And also, you will very commonly find the stands associated with these. This stand shows a Greek or Roman vase. It says here, Bless and Drake, Newark, New Jersey. And these irons, I think, were sold with all the coal irons that the Bless and Drake sold. There is another stand we'll show here, that's the B and D for Bless and Drake. And I think these stands were more often used for their various detachable handle irons. And Bless and Drake did a lot of different kinds of irons for more than 50 years, and we will be having a video on them in due time. A similar iron that I also place in the Bless and Drake group, although this is an independent company, is the irons of F.C. Adams. I'm not sure where these irons were manufactured. They have a very similar style, although they are obviously catering to a higher market. They're more ruggedly made. They have a lot of extra decor, a flower design on the top, and so forth. They also sometimes have the chimney swung to the right, and they have a pin on the side, and both of these are more European designs. They also have their own particular vents in the back. My second group are the irons from the MSP's company of Cincinnati, Ohio. The company had quite a number of patents from 1884 to the early 1900s. This patent is from 1904. So the Pease irons have two basic styles. There is the earlier style, 1880s, 1890s, that have the chimney, and in the later irons, and this one is 1904, there is an abbreviated chimney in the front. All of these have a four-leaf clover kind of vent system in the back. But as with the Bless and Drakes, these were licensed to other companies, and so there's a whole host of other companies doing the same thing. They look exactly the same, except they might have some different vents in the back and don't have markings or have different markings on the top. Also, as with the Bless and Drake, the Pease irons had their own stand, and this is a rather peculiar stand. It's got a piece that swings, and it is designed so that you can put the iron on its side, and you can then use it to cook a soup or something like that. But also, oftentimes these irons have a fluting attachment on the other side, and this is a bit of an anomaly because these irons, 1880s, 1904, all have this fluting attachment. And let's remember that the fluters have gone much in decline, and it's very hard to find a manufactured fluting iron with patents that are later than the 1880s, and yet these irons characteristically have the fluter attachment. So what's going on here? So what I think is that while fluting has now gone into a more unpopular realm, it's less stylish, there still were people who liked an iron that they could use for the general ironing and then could do a little bit of extra work on the fringes. And there was a market for this, and Pease made an iron that did the coal work but also did the fluting work. And that was something that was a niche that they occupied. My third group is a broader group. This is multiple manufacturers, multiple companies with multiple different histories, but these irons are individually not overly common, but collectively you see them quite often, and as a group they are quite interesting. What's most interesting about these coal irons is that these irons were exclusively, as far as I can tell, made in the 20th century. This one has a 1903 patent, this one has a 1913 patent, this one has a 1932 patent. 1932 for a coal iron? So coal, you would think, is an anachronism, and yet there's a variety of companies that are on their own and not doing much else besides making coal irons. And what I think is happening is this. In the very earliest 1900s, we are getting into a new age, and we have horseless carriages running around, we have humans can fly, and so forth. And the housewives in the rural areas, and probably the towns as well, are still using single piece or detachable handled flat irons. And it's time for that change, except that they do not have gasoline or natural gas facilities near to them, and there's no electricity locally for sure for some time yet. And so what they are doing then is, and this is being marketed to them as a way of modernizing your habit by getting out of the kitchen as you do your irons using charcoal. In the early 1930s, only 3% of farmhouses were electrified. We forget this now, but one of the accomplishments that Franklin Roosevelt was at one time most famous for was the Rural Electrification Act in 1936. It was not until the 1960s that electricity was generally available across the United States. Before this time, how were the farmhouses generally heated? Coal, maybe wood. Now, I only have 3 general styles in this group, but there were various companies that made these, and these are oftentimes different companies here. So they are quite diverse. This one even has a little bit of a chimney. This one, the Eclipse from 1903. This one has no markings. This is the Progress iron with a little abbreviated chimney in the front. And then you have these three, and these three are an especially interesting group. This one has 1914, 1916 patents. This one's unpatented. This again, a 1932 patent. And these are double pointed. And this one is especially unusual. Again, this is the most recent, 1932. It has a little knob here that allows me to open or close the chimney portion of the irons. Of course, it has the vents on the side. And these irons could use coal or charcoal, of course, but oftentimes these were marketed to sell a manufactured fuel, sort of like charcoal briquettes, and I've been looking for some of the packaging for these things for a long time. Anybody has some of those and can share them with me, that'd be good, because I do want to do a video on this particular group of manufactured coal chips. And a later video, these manufactured coal pieces were very, very popular in Europe, as we'll see in the next video. So we're seeing the American charcoal irons here, and as I've said, there isn't all that much diversity among the group. When we get into the European irons, the next video, we'll find that there is a huge amount of diversity, and the European coal irons are quite popular among collectors. So as usual, please subscribe, give your thumbs up, give your comments, and send your questions to me by email. And now for some exciting news. This old dog is working to learn some new tricks. We are posting photos on Instagram. Photo every day or two, integrated, and by the way, under the name of Kevin Talks Irons, integrated with the YouTube videos as well. We are doing everything we can to interest new generations in the hobby and the subject of antique irons.